Welcome to Agents Growth Academy. I hope you're ready to grow big or go home. I am your headmaster, Jim Schubert. I am super excited today to bring a guest on who's going to talk about what commercial lines agents are missing on LinkedIn. I'll introduce him in just a second. But first, I'm wondering if you're having trouble getting your foot in the door when it comes to prospects. I think my guest is going to talk a little bit about that today and ways that you can do that. But one of the ways that I found that insurance agents are starting to do more and more is finding ways to add value first before you give anything or before you ask for anything in return. So if you go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/value, I've actually put together a list of some of the ways that some of my past guests are actually doing that, putting that into practice. It's called 5 Ways to Provide Value Before Asking for Anything. So if you just go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/value, you could download that sucker for yourself right now. Folks, I am unbelievably excited to welcome my guest today, Hayato Nakamura. And he is a LinkedIn ninja. I think that's what I'm going to label him as, a LinkedIn ninja. Okay. And he's going to talk to us about what commercial agents are missing when it comes to LinkedIn. Hayato, I didn't even ask you about pronouncing your name. Did I do that correctly?
That's exactly it.
Oh, thank
Hayato
God.
Nakamura. Yeah. It would have been funny if we flopped on that one. No, you're
I
good.
know. Seriously, man. Seriously. Hey, I appreciate you spending, I guess what is currently the tail end of your morning out in California with me. I love that we're able to do this like cross country all over the world now, interviewing people no matter where we are. This is so cool, right?
No, it's an amazing time, and the technology existed prior to the pandemic, but without it, we may have all still kind of used it as a secondary thing, and now it's the primary means. So
I mean,
I think it's cool.
it is a way of life for sure
Yeah.
for now. So tell me in like 2 minutes, give me your story of how in the heck did you get here today?
Yeah. So, as the name would suggest, I'm a Japanese guy, and there are prime ministers and celebrities and scandals and pro ball players that are named Hayato Nakamura. But somehow, guys, somehow, when you search Hayato Nakamura on Google, it's usually this guy that shows up as the first result, and it's usually his LinkedIn profile, right?
No.
So that's where the story's going to end up. From Japan, spent some time in the U.S., grew up in Papua New Guinea, and then later on returned to Japan for college, and then decided to come to the U.S. for some more school. Met an American woman to get married to, and then now I can't leave, right? And so, sarcasm aside, I got into the insurance industry just looking for a job. Quite frankly, like many people, I think, right? I was in Chicago at the time, and Aon was one of the tall buildings there, and I looked up and I said, "Hey, I should probably start making a living." So I looked up and saw this company, 3 letters, and I thought, I'll apply. And they let me in, right? They let me in. I had more to benefit than they did. But anyways, that's how I got moved into Los Angeles, did Aon for a little bit, and then Marsh later on for a little bit. Started in production and then moved on into account executive work. And all I've seen is the commercial PNC side of things. So
Yeah.
can't say I'm savvy on the group benefit side, but nonetheless, been living insurance as an adult, and that's all I've seen. A little
Okay.
bit later, stepped out to do my own thing, and now I coach people around LinkedIn and help teams just trying to do better prospecting through LinkedIn, and that's the world that I live today. But that's how we arrive at today.
Awesome. So what was that pivotal moment for you or like an epiphany moment where you realized, okay, LinkedIn is a thing that everybody should be using and figuring out how to use better?
Yeah, the pivotal moment was when I realized that though many of us have been on LinkedIn for a long time, LinkedIn has actually been around since 2002. It's one of the oldest social media platforms,
Yeah.
but yet not the sexiest one, fortunately or
No.
unfortunately, right? And despite it being around for so long, so many of us continue to think of it as just another job hunting or like a resume platform, right? Hayato was born in the jungles of wherever, and then he took up horseback. Like, who cares about your background? Like everybody comes on to the scene on LinkedIn asking the question, "What can you do for me?" Right? What can you do for me? And it's the same for the recruiters too, right? They want to know how you can help them fill their next job rec. So with that said, we all come in with a resume type of mindset on LinkedIn.
Mm.
But the pivotal moment was this when I realized that you can actually go and search the history of your prospects, of where they've been, who they've been engaging with, who stuff they liked, who they tend to interact with, all that stuff before you make your first touch with them. It's kind of
Yeah.
like walking into that networking meeting on the third Friday at a Denny's in your local neighborhood and knowing exactly who everybody has already been interacting with prior to them meeting you, which is, I think, incredible, right? So,
Yeah.
so I'm not exactly sure what circumstance led me to that realization, but that has been the real pivotal moment for me to realize, yeah, this thing's on fire.
Yeah. So what are you doing with that now? Because you were deeply entrenched in the insurance world and
Mhm.
something drew you into the
Right.
LinkedIn world. So tell us
Mhm.
about that.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a mixture of me just wanting to get into some kind of digital marketing as a career choice,
Okay.
and not being sure where exactly to go. I thought, well, LinkedIn is kind of the place where maybe my corporate professional side can meet my interest in digital marketing. And in that, I was looking around the office, even at Aon or even at Marsh a little bit later, thinking, everyone's got that Salesforce entry. Everyone's got that corporate email that they blast out to their prospects, right? It's
Hmm.
like, hey, this is the update from, and fill in the name of your agency or broker. And then you pick up the phone once in a while. And then maybe you'll have a corporate event that happens once a quarter and you invite them, but then the date doesn't matches. So then you don't get to see them, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's banking on so few a touch point when
Mm.
in the end, when the risk manager or even the CEO, if it's a smaller business, says, you know what, we're going to change brokers or we're going to shop our market this year, who are they going to call, right? It's the
Yeah.
last person who built the most amount of trust with them,
Yeah.
right? The last
Yeah.
person that they saw. And so the more frequently you can see them, or you can be seen by them, is the name of the game. And that's where I saw, oh, you know what? Everybody's on LinkedIn all the time already anyway. No
Yeah.
one posts, no one's doing anything active, but they're there. And the
Yeah.
few people that actually show up are the people that, regardless of whether you need to intentionally call or not, you're the last person that they saw, and you might as well get that invitation to the RFP. You might as well get that call about whether you can shop for that line for cheaper, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So,
that's the story.
what does this mean for commercial insurance agents then? What are they missing?
Yeah, the big thing that commercial insurance agents today are missing is that ability to build rapport with someone who may not be shopping their business for another little while. Right.
Hmm.
There are a lot of people that want to spam you in your inbox in LinkedIn because maybe their sales cycle is shorter, right? They
Yeah.
can catch a gym on a Tuesday, and maybe they can sell you something on next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. But in our world of commercial PNC, you got the X date or the renewal date, whatever term you want to choose. It might be another 11 and a half months if you met them at the wrong time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If their next renewal is 11 months out, then maybe you have another 9 months that you don't get to do anything with that person, right?
Yeah.
Not because they don't like you, it's just the nature of the business. So then what are you
Sure.
going to do in the interim? Should we wait for the quarterly events to show up and maybe you get to see them once or twice? Maybe you can call them out to coffee, but then maybe their kid got COVID positive, so they're not able to come out even though they're COVID negative.
Right.
Uh, what are you going to do, right? And you need more frequent touch points. The biggest thing I think commercial PNC agents today are missing is just the ability to find these decision makers on LinkedIn and then research everything that you need to know about their online existence through LinkedIn and
Hmm.
then reach out in a way that is truly valuable to them instead of just spamming them.
And
Simple.
therein lies the challenge, right? The value versus spamming. And I have to tell you, like I constantly get barraged. I'm sure you do too, with people who, are just spamming you saying like they connect with you and then they've got a bot that immediately sends out a message that says, don't you want to buy my thing? Don't you want to do this? Like it's like, come
At
on.
9:57 p.m. Yeah.
Right, right, exactly. Yeah. It's just not real.
Yep. Yep. It's not. It's not. Well, maybe it is for some, right? But
Yeah.
for most,
Yeah.
it won't be. Yeah. And so I think that touches on a good point that that point has two sides to it. One is the one that you verbally mentioned right now, which is they're trying to sell you something,
Hmm.
right? Even if it be something that sounds so mild as, "Hey, let's get on a call. Maybe I can teach you something," or that's still within the sales cycle of things. So we
Yes.
we
Yes.
deem it to be sales, right? But the
Yeah.
other unspoken side is just the lack of authenticity that we seem to get from that, right?
Yeah.
No matter how curated the message, no matter how reasonable the hour of day that might be sent to me, I still feel it's a little bit inauthentic. I feel like maybe I'm a number in their sales pipeline.
Yeah.
And it's fine that I am if you can truly help me. But I don't know if people are just more sensitive today, or maybe it's a more emotionally charged culture that we live in today. I don't know what it is, but authenticity goes a long ways in getting a good response. And a lot of people, I think, are missing that today.
So what are some ways that insurance agents can
Mhm.
be authentic and stand out and cut through the noise of all of those people who are just like, hey, I love that you use the example of like, hey, let's jump on a call because I know what that is. Right. Hey, or I'm really curious to learn about what's going on at Southern States Insurance. Really? Why?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. One of the things that a lot of insurance agents today, whether they're on LinkedIn or not, tend to not know is this number called the social selling index, where you can simply go onto Google you can, if you're hearing the podcast here, you can do this right away. You type in social space selling space index,
Hmm.
and it's going to give you a result in Google, which is usually going to be the first line at the very top. Okay, so go ahead and punch that in if you're listening to this right now, and you'll get something that's from business.linkedin.com. Okay, it's a LinkedIn website, it's a LinkedIn portal, and you're going to click into that, and it's going to open up a little screen, and on that screen, it'll say something to the extent of "Get your score for free," or "Click here for your score," or something. And just all you need to know is that it's free. So go ahead and click on that number. As
Yeah.
long as your browser is logged into LinkedIn recently, that then will automatically take you to a score that LinkedIn then behind the scenes is actually I don't know if curating is the right word, but calibrating for you.
Yeah.
And so let's say that I go in, and Hayato is someone who is posting a lot, connecting with people a lot, but not engaging with people a lot, meaning like in an authentic way, I'm like liking or commenting on their stuff. You will
Okay.
see the metric because LinkedIn sees everything that you do, right?
Yeah.
And LinkedIn essentially therein, it's going to be 4 different bars, is going to show you all the things that it's measuring your activity on. And so then you can clearly see oftentimes commercial agents will be very low on the bar that says you're engaging with your audience, meaning they're sending stuff. They want people to come and see your posts, but you yourself are not going out to engage with their audience, with their posts,
Yeah.
because we're all just a little bit selfish. And you know what? Hey, we got to feed our kids. I get that. Right? I get that. But it's one of the first things that agents can be doing to really increase their visibility, not just
Mm.
because you go and engage, but behind the scenes, LinkedIn is going to then be seeing that, oh, I see Jim doesn't just post, he actually comments on other people's stuff. Even
Mhm.
if that person may not be an immediate prospect, he's there consuming their content. Thank you for being a good, how would you say, facilitator of this LinkedIn economy, Jim. I appreciate you. And LinkedIn gives you a few more points behind the back. And the higher your scores, most likely the better your LinkedIn visibility will be. The more
Okay.
people can find you, the more posts will be able to reach more people and visibility and views. Now,
Okay.
LinkedIn doesn't totally give away the entirety of its recipe because that's
Sure.
there, it's like Coca-Cola, right? Everyone's got
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
recipe, but it is something that is tangible for people to be able to see. And that's one of the first things that we would show them to say, hey, this is where you can start making some improvements.
That's really interesting. And I think myself, like I'm okay at engaging, but I know that I
Mhm.
could be better because I feel like I go through waves where I'm posting a bunch of things, and I might be, you know, throwing a like or a heart or whatever, but I might
Sure.
not be commenting. That
Right.
was one thing that attracted me to even reaching out to you. Really, it
Mhm.
was responding to you because you came into my ecosystem, my world,
Mhm.
and
Right.
genuinely, and I don't even remember what it was right now. I should have looked this up before the show, but you in such a genuine way were
Mhm.
just like commenting on a post that I made and asking me further questions, and it wasn't in a sleazy way. And I
Right.
think that's what's really probably the challenge for most that are really interested in this is how do I do it in an
Mm.
authentic way? And what would you
Mm.
say to folks who are trying to figure out how to do that?
Man, that's a hard one, but I think in the end, we as commercial agents or brokers would never get their business if we can't sit down and have things in common to be friends that can trust each other,
Yeah.
right? We all know that term that this is a heavily relationship driven business, right?
Yes.
And so if we're all going to end up there, there are probably certain things that I resonate with well. I don't know if they're going to resonate with well, but I can still maybe put out the bait to see if they would resonate with that, right?
Yeah.
And so then even if I didn't know that they had a family, but I might guess that they had a family, I
Mhm.
might respond to something in a way to say, my family and I have been doing this and blah, blah, blah. And that's the kind of thing that it makes me think of when I saw your post or when I saw your whatever, right?
Okay.
And so then that way, I'm at least coming in the most authentic manner that I can. And if they
Yeah.
bite the bait, then great. If they don't, then hey, we're out of luck. But you know what? We probably wouldn't have done business anyway.
Sure. Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so this is where I think we as people in sales, whether it be producers or whatever you might call yourself, are so busy to try and how would you say like build rapport.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn is a fun place where if you just show up and be exactly who you're willing to be, and you just do that in volume, the right people end up catching the bait for who you are, and they want to do business with people who are like them or resonate with the certain things as well. Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. I'm nodding my head vigorously for those who can't see on the podcast, but I think that's actually why I love LinkedIn so much, because
Mm,
it is a place where when I have been my most genuine and just been myself and, you know, be silly in a post or be vulnerable in a post or with engaging with people, um, I feel the most satisfaction. And I
yeah.
guess in a way it makes sense because in the real world, air quotes,
Mhm,
right,
mm.
off of social media, that's how we interact with other humans anyway, right?
Right, right,
We're,
right.
you know, have you seen, there's a hilarious kids movie. Have you seen Ron's Gone Wrong?
No.
Oh my
I'm gonna
gosh.
write
I've
that
got to make a
down.
post about this. It's about
Okay,
this kid, yeah, Ron, RON, Ron's Gone Wrong. And
okay,
basically the story is that this kid gets like a robot, that a company that's supposed to kind of be like a combination of Google, Apple, and everything else, is like he
okay,
gets this little robot and it's sort of broken.
okay.
But the robot ends up teaching the kid more about how to interact on a human level than any social media or robot or anything could. But there's this one scene where the robot is going around. I forgot the kid's name from the movie, but he's like, like him. And he's like, friend request. And he puts like stickers on everybody, friend request, friend request. And it's like, that's not how the real world works,
Oh,
right?
I see, I see, I
You
see, I
wouldn't
see what
find
you
yourself at a cocktail party. Like I wouldn't walk across the room to you and go, Hayato, friend request. I don't know
right,
you, but I see your name tag. Friend request?
right,
Right?
right,
It's not how
right,
it
right.
works.
No, yeah, exactly, and LinkedIn knows that, and,
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I think in a social media realm, sure, some people say they're competing with Instagram and Facebook and maybe TikTok, because they're another social media platform, but, my personal opinion, and, I'm sure many will challenge me on this, but my personal opinion is that they're actually competing more so against Bloomberg and CNBC
Hmm.
than, say, Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
because if LinkedIn and I say this because LinkedIn continues to push good business value content because they can read everything and see everything, and so they decide what gets visibility or not, right? And so
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the ones that continue to flood our feeds are good business value, but also good personal vulnerability content. Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so this may be, "Hey, I won this trip to Maui. Look at this amazing backdrop," right? Or, "Hey, my kids have been sick lately." Those kinds of things get a ton of visibility today, and if LinkedIn didn't want the world to see that because they wanted to stay really tight in business, they wouldn't let the world see that, but they're letting it get a lot of visibility today, and I think it's because Bloomberg, CNBC, and places can do all the business content and have
Yeah.
the anchors bring on somebody for 3.5 minutes on something, some short thing before like
Yeah.
another market
Yeah.
trajectory, breaking
Yeah.
news. They're so busy, but they can do all that stuff, but they can't do the personal stuff.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn can't. If you take over the personal stuff and be able to give them the business, then they don't ever have to go to these busy whatever ticker symbol CNBC stuff.
Yeah.
The financial advisor can get everything he wants to for his audience on LinkedIn, and whatever your vertical, LinkedIn is able to curate exactly what business and personal stuff you need for the day. And if that habit then becomes, forget turning on cable, let's go on to LinkedIn, man,
Mm.
they own you for the rest of your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
Right?
God, that makes so much sense. And you joke about the Maui picture. We were talking off air about the picture that I posted from Maui when my wife and I just got back. Thank you, auto owners, by the way, for sending us on a beautiful trip. But yeah, that picture alone has been the most views that I've gotten because
Mhm.
when you post things, you can see how many views it has, and also the most engagement, which
Yeah.
is crazy to think
Yeah.
that it had nothing to do with business other than the fact that auto owners, another company, took us there.
Mhm.
But, and I said, thank you, auto owners in the post, but that was it. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And so there's something in there where the algorithm is clearly seeking more faces, more authenticity, more humanizing a business, right?
yeah.
And Jim, you mentioned something a second ago about the just being able to get more visibility on that simple post, even though you didn't comment anything. Do you track your metrics at all on what you post on LinkedIn?
Well, in what way? What do you mean?
In
Like
what way?
where
So,
would I track
so
it?
Yeah. So there are a few softwares out there, but for anyone who wants to go a little bit deeper on LinkedIn, one that we always recommend with our clients is called Shield app,
Okay.
and the domain is shieldApp, I believe. I think
Okay.
they're a software company out of Denmark, I believe. Don't quote me on
Okay.
that. But there are a lot of softwares in the world of LinkedIn today that actually are not kosher with the LinkedIn terms of service. Certain things that help you spam the world. Shield is
Okay.
not one of them. And
Got it.
Shield actually plugs in properly on the back end with the API of LinkedIn. And the moment you sign up, and I believe if you do your own individual account, it's as cheap as $15 a month or maybe 10
Oh,
bucks a
okay.
month.
Yeah.
And you'll plug in, and because they connect with the API, you will then be able to harvest in an instant the past 6 months of your posts, visibility, what it showed, what kind of post was it, and even who saw the post. You can see the breakout of who it's reaching, right?
Wow.
Not by name, but by category and titles
Yeah.
and stuff
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. And in that moment, then you start to see the recipe of what kind of post coming out of Jim's LinkedIn account does the best, and you then start to be able to build your own recipe that works the best for you going forward, so that you're not just kind of shooting in the dark. Does that make sense?
That makes complete sense. And I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you for insurance agents who are out there thinking, okay, I'd like to make a go of this. I'd like to do something with this.
Mhm.
For me, I know with what I'm doing, obviously I have a podcast and things like that that really lend itself well to that. But again, I'm not out there soliciting for writing insurance because, like I told
Right.
you, I haven't written a policy in like 8 years. Right? I'm managing a
Yeah.
pretty large agency. But for those who are agents, is there like a content strategy
Mm.
that, is that something you recommend that they do? Because that's kind of what you're saying is like once you figure out what's been working well and
Mhm.
what to do more of,
Yeah.
is it like what would you recommend to folks
Yeah.
around building out a content strategy?
Yeah, the content strategy is going to be so unique to that not only agency but that producer.
Yeah,
And so let's talk about more about the steps to take to think about that rather than what exactly the strategy
sure.
would be, right?
Yeah, that makes
So the
sense.
steps to think about it is, let's say that for some person they are going after, say, like light industrial or like
Okay.
manufacturing plants in a
Yeah.
certain region of, let's say you're like in Cincinnati or something.
Yeah.
And then the game here then becomes, like anything in production, we need to be in the eyes of the person that is going to want to do business with you. So if the person that you're trying to do business with is, say, a CFO at a light industrial plant in the outskirts of Cincinnati, then you're going to find those people. And what you want to do is go into that person's LinkedIn profile. And this is good for everybody listening. If you just want to
Yeah.
like write out the steps here, you're going to go into that ideal client's LinkedIn profile and then scroll down to about the middle of the section where it says all activity,
Mm-hmm.
and then it'll show, and then at the bottom of that little card, it'll say, show all activity. And so click on that. And then suddenly the entirety of your LinkedIn screen becomes everything that person has done. The post that they recently liked, the post that they recently commented on, they themselves, what they posted, blah, 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 blah. And you see the whole
Mm,
history. And therein lies the recipe that you need to follow, because that's the type of thing that that person likes to consume. Right. And
got it.
so then if you do it for, say, 50 people, you'll get the cadence that they
Yeah.
like to see pretty pictures as opposed to no pictures. You
Right.
tend to see that maybe they like good value text posts or not. Maybe they like to see a bunch of good quotes instead of seeing long posts. Maybe they only interact with videos and they don't pay any attention to the text ones. Who knows? But you will find out as you go. So once
So
you're
it's like,
diligent on that, then
yeah.
you'll know what you should be doing.
Just reverse engineering it. I mean, it makes sense.
Indeed.
It's like any other way of approaching, sales. Like find out
Right.
where is your audience? What do they like? What are they doing? Yeah, that makes a
Right,
lot of sense.
absolutely. And I'm sure everybody listening to this thing, if they're on LinkedIn at all, they're continually getting spammed in their inbox saying, "Hey, we'll get you 5 appointments on this." Or like, "Hey, our software can automate all your outreach." Or, "Hey, video is huge on LinkedIn. We can make all the videos for you." But none of that will actually work for you if you're not doing what we just mentioned right now, because how are they supposed to know what the
Yeah.
CFO of an industrial plant in the outskirts of Cincinnati is supposed to want to consume?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
that's brilliant. I love it. Well, how much time do you think an agent needs to spend doing this a week? I mean, I'm sure a lot of people
yeah,
are listening to this going, Hayato, sounds awesome, man. But like, really, I'm gonna have to hire somebody full time to do that.
yeah, yeah. No, really, really good comment. So part of it has to be, like we just mentioned, research,
Hmm.
right? And in the midst of that research, you can still comment, so it's still outreach as well, right?
Hmm.
You can see something they commented on, and then you can maybe reply to one of their comments and suddenly get into their sphere of things, right?
Hmm.
And by the way, in case anybody's confused here while you're listening to this, what is the point of commenting? It's not so much that you would say something valuable, though you should, right? The
Hmm.
real game here is for you to do it often and nonchalantly enough that your name continues to show up in their smartphone notification. Because most people in the world don't have the diligence to put down their smartphone, and their LinkedIn app, if they have it on their phone, will most likely show your name. Oh, Hayato. Oh, Jim here again, right? And so that's the value of commenting. But by the way, coming back to the question, how much time should you spend in a week? I believe that you can start on 15 minutes a day.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be any more than that. But the
Wow.
game here is, are you doing the right things?
Yeah.
Right? You can get really busy and consuming things and reading things and doing all this stuff. Whereas if you do it in the right way, and this is something we do with our clients all the time too, where people would say, thanks for the training. I get that. But where do we start? What's the recipe for the week? And we start them on something that's no more than 15 to 20 minutes a week. And I say
Hmm.
15 to 20 because just batching it all out. Some days are 15. I put some other days as 20, but
Yeah.
15, 20 days, 20 minutes a day. And part of those days would be engagement. You go out and research while you're commenting on your ideal client's LinkedIn activity. On some
Yeah.
days, I might allocate the entirety of the 15 to, say, like writing a simple post and starting on posting once a week, right? But 15, 20 minutes a day really can be enough for you to start to move the needle on this.
That makes a lot of sense. And that's very easily digestible and I think actionable for most
Mm,
people. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Um, I think we got to get into the rapid fire round. I think we got a lot of good content already for the audience, and I want to see
cool.
kind of what comes out of this.
Yeah.
And certainly if there's anything big that you want to tackle too, let's keep going. But one piece of technology or software that you can't live without, and you've given us a couple of already. So
Right, right. The one that I actually had on my list was the Shield one that
okay,
I brought up too soon, but,
no, that's fine.
a lot of people have been, the more we obviously, we need to sell our services too, so we would prospect with insurance agencies and a variety of people, say, "Hey, can we help you around your LinkedIn?" And the question always is, "Well, what am I gonna get in the end?"
Hmm.
Right? And I tell them, "I understand that's a really valuable question, but we need to talk about where you are here today
Yeah,
before we can talk about what we're gonna go do with you and for you," right? And
yeah,
finding
yeah.
that baseline is a really big thing, and so I encourage everybody listening, if you're unsure, at least take Shield up. I'm not affiliated in any way. I should be, but
You really should be, right?
I don't get paid
And
for this.
use his promo code.
Yeah, exactly. Just enter Hayato at checkout. No, that doesn't exist. But I've spoken to them multiple times, directly. We have a good channel of communication. I trust these people,
Yeah,
and just even on that 10-day free trial, get your team members, get your producers on there to see what's actually been going on. Because a lot of agency owners would say, well, we're doing something on our LinkedIn agency's corporate profile, but we're
mhm,
not using our producers and individuals profiles. And
yeah,
once you can put that into Shield and actually get the metrics, now you suddenly see, hey, instead of busting your rear on that corporate profile, if
yeah,
we can aggregate all 5 producers and the visibility that they're bringing into the agency, suddenly you see, hey, this is just the amplifier. Every
yeah.
producer carries your brand all day. We have their accounts to utilize as well. And anyhow, Shield will clarify the baseline for you for which you can improve.
That makes a lot of sense what you're talking about, amplifying it with your other staff. Yeah, that makes so much sense. What's one book that you're reading now or that you've read in the past that you just want to share with people?
Yeah, this is going to be a really basic one. Really, really basic. I live somewhat close to. No, we won't go that route. No, really basic book is Rich Dad Poor Dad for me. Rich
Oh,
Dad.
yes, dude. I just
Super
gave that
basic.
to my son, my 16-year-old, because he came to me and he was like, I mean, literally a week
Mm,
ago, he came to me
yeah.
and said, Dad, my eyes are open to like all the ways you can make money. I'm like, oh, son, there's a
Oh,
guy that you need to read. Yes. Yeah.
no, that's great. That's great. And the reason I bring this up, and similar to you, I keep buying it for everybody.
Yeah.
My Amazon list, whenever I
Yeah.
buy something for somebody, it's usually that book. But the
Yeah.
reason I bring this up is because the story in Rich Dad Poor Dad is really around building cash flow, building equity that will produce cash flow, right?
Yeah.
And the point of that is that while you're sleeping, something will make you money, right? And I think that's a really good idea for everybody, just from a business standpoint. But even weaving that into my world today, which is LinkedIn, LinkedIn is the relational equity that you can build with the world that continues to feed your name and brand out there and will
Mm.
continue to bring traffic back to you even while you sleep, right?
Yeah.
There are many a days in a week where I don't know anybody, but then they commented on something that I had put out, and they're like, they slide into the DM, if you will, as we want to call it that, right? And we have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
message going, and they're like, "Hey, we should talk business. I'm curious what you're doing. I'm curious how you can help us." And
Yeah.
that is essentially building relational equity in the world in good old business cash flow fashion, traffic cash flow, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the book that I had in mind.
That is awesome. And not a basic book, by the way. It's a very powerful book. I read
Indeed.
it very early on in my career, and I still I still apply things to that that I read in that every day, including the concept of saving, investing, tithing. Like, man, that alone has probably
Yeah.
made me and helped me save more money than anything else.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Um, do you have a story about a time when you helped somebody solve a problem?
Help somebody solve a problem. I was not as well prepared on this one, but I'm going to shoot from the hip today on
Yeah,
this.
go for it.
Even this morning, we had a conversation with a video editing company. Right, as we work with insurance agencies and other companies in the LinkedIn realm, we can train them on strategy. We can train their team on how to use LinkedIn. But then at the end of the day, they're like, hey, you know what? I don't know how to do video. It's not a
Yeah,
requirement, but it's a good one to have, right? It's the
sure.
easiest one for your producers to just kind of blast out there
Yeah.
with your agency kind of brand
Hmm.
built in, right? And this company, this video editing company, we'll call them that, video editing company, was not strong in the world of LinkedIn to realize that they could actually get data. Again, I'm going to sound like the Shield app, salesman guy. This is a big thing, right? The more we talk about it, your starting point of where you are today is not clear. And they would say, yeah, Hayato, we're interested in partnering with you guys because LinkedIn is a really big focus for us and this and that. But then I'm asking them like, great, like, are you able to show the successes of how far your video have gotten. It's not entirely within your control, but we need to be able to show that, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, I don't really know." And so then the game was, well, then go on Shield today. Just like Shield podcast today. Go on Shield today and get the metrics. And there's nothing better than being able to just give free good advice that's going to help them so much more, right? And that's then going to then be able to aggregate the data that then hopefully they'll be able to show us the data that makes them a meaningful partner so that we can then integrate them into
That's
the way
awesome.
we help agencies. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's
I
awesome.
obviously you can tell I live in the LinkedIn world. That's all I got to talk about. I'm sorry.
I'm starting to think that you work for Tony Stark. You keep mentioning Shield
Yeah,
over and over and over, so I'm
yeah,
not really sure what's going on here. No, that's awesome. Um,
yeah.
so I have a question that I didn't prepare or that
Okay.
you might not have known about.
Mm,
If you had the choice between
mm,
eating hot soup and
mhm.
gourmet hot chocolate and marshmallows, what would you choose?
I'm a hot soup guy.
What kind of soup?
Mm, I prefer the Southeast Asian type that has lemongrass in it. Too specific?
That's pretty specific. What if it weren't that kind?
What if it weren't that kind? I would take a Japanese miso soup all day and every day, every meal, if I could.
I would.
Um,
I would too, quite honestly.
yeah, what a random
Well,
question, but I appreciate it.
yes, yes. Well, I'm not sure that the company that we would be sending you soup from has those too,
Oh,
but I'm happy to give you a list. One thing we love to do is send our guests a gift from Spoonful of Comfort, which is a
no,
fantastic company that we have shared with our past guests as well as our employees, and they have absolutely loved the soup. So I'll
wow.
email you off mic, and we can come to an agreement on what kind of non-Asian soup that we could we could send you. And
I'm
maybe we're gonna
game.
have to talk to Spoonful of Comfort about why do they not have miso soup? Because I
Yeah,
would
you might.
I would eat that all day, every day too.
I bet the margins are very good on miso soup. It costs barely nothing to make it. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
bring that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love it, man. Hayato, what is one final piece of advice that you could give to our listeners?
Final piece of advice. In the online world, now that the pandemic has pushed us for everybody to go digital first,
Mm,
there's never been a better time to just go online and be exactly who you want to be in the professional realm, especially if you're in the commercial space, especially if you're in the producer space
hmm
where your brand and quality of individual matters. Sure, some flashy characters are gonna, maybe, catch the wind a little bit earlier and easier. That's fine.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think there's plenty of business out there for us to be exactly who we want to be. And as long as you're authentic about it, then hey, it's a good time to be in business. So just keep putting
Oh,
yourself out
I love it, man. I can't wait to share this with my own producers. Honestly, this episode alone is worth its weight in gold. So thank you. Where
there.
can people get more Hayato in their lives?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Put in Hayato Nakamura. If you put it into Google, I'm usually the first Hayato Nakamura that shows up, and it's going to be my LinkedIn profile. So that'll probably be it. It's not the easiest of names to spell, but Hayato. Give it a shot. So
Awesome. Awesome. Hayato, so grateful to have you on today. Thank you very much. Stick around for 1 second for me afterwards. But folks, until next time, grow big or go home.